So, are you new to running and you're unsure if what you're experiencing is normal? Or maybe you're wanting to start running but you're not quite sure where to start? Well, in today's video we're going to go through and be talking about running. From being someone who absolutely used to hate running, would be terrible at it, would suffer from the worst shin splints ever, to someone now who actually enjoys running. I actually just completed my first half marathon. So in this video I'll be explaining my experience, how I got to where I am today, and I'll take you through my top tips that I've learned along the way. So in the past I was really bad at running, and I would even put it as far to say that I just couldn't run in general. I remember in school when you have to do like cross country or long distance running, it was my least favourite thing to do, and I was just always so bad. I would run out of breath, like just shin splints galore. It's always been the same all throughout my life. Like I've just always been a terrible runner. And then throughout the years, like I would have friends who'd go run, all that kind of stuff, but I just never seemed to enjoy it. I think partly the reason like I never enjoyed running was because I would get shin splints and I would find it hard because I'm like, I don't like it because it's too hard. And whenever I would try and go for a run with people, they would run so fast, so I couldn't keep up. And I would try to keep up, but then that would make me run out of breath more and then get shin splints, and then I'd be like, okay, it's like, this isn't for me. Scrap this running malarkey. It's been a very up and down journey. Well, not that up. Pretty much just down till recently. It's just something that I accepted that I was bad at, and I thought maybe I'm just not designed to be a runner, but I think that was kind of harsh on myself to say that I'm not a runner without even trying. So that was my first goal. My first goal was to become a runner and to overcome shin splints, improve my cardio, just get fitter, because last year in 2022 I was suffering from an injury. Ended up me being out of the gym and out of fitness for quite a few months, and I felt like I had lost my fitness levels. I felt like I put on weight. I just didn't feel very confident. I was like very low confidence. I was quite anxious. I was just not in the best of spaces at all. So I think I saw running as a way to boost all of that, both my cardio, my running in general, my running skills, my confidence, my fitness. Like it was, I think saw it as kind of a way to boost so many different areas of my life, and I saw it as a challenge, which I really liked as well, because going to the gym is something that I've done for years, so it feels very comfortable to a certain extent, but running was never something that I felt comfortable with. So I felt that maybe by doing something like that it would just wake something up in me, and it did. It really did. So in January of 2023 I started running. Was I slow? No. Was I too fast, cutting my runs short, out of breath and getting shin splints? Yes. But rewind a few weeks ago and I completed my first half marathon in under 2.5 hours. So that was literally 10 months. I went from not being able to run to completing my first half marathon. To become a runner or be a runner doesn't mean that you have to fit into any type of stereotype or wear certain clothes or have certain shoes or look a certain way or act a certain way or do so many kilometers a week or whatever it is. I just think that if you are going out on a consistent basis and running, whether that is 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, if you're doing it somewhat consistently, then you are a runner. Congratulations. But I've learned a lot of things over the last 10 months, and I thought it would be really nice to kind of compile all of that into one video and go through some of the things that I've learned, some of the mistakes that I made, etc, and just kind of delve into those areas of running. When I started running properly, I had a very clear goal of I want to become a runner. And what do runners do? Runners go and run. So my goal was to basically get out the house and run, whether that was for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, because some days I would feel on top of the world and I could run longer. Other days I would feel absolutely terrible and I could hardly run at all. The most important thing at the start when you start running is to create a habit, create a routine, create that consistency. And by creating consistency, it means just getting out of the house and running. So for the first few weeks I started running consistently. I had like these checkpoints to which I would run like the same route every single time, and I had a certain checkpoint and I would try to run to that checkpoint, and then I just made sure the next time that I ran, it didn't matter if I ran for like an extra minute, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever it was past my checkpoint, I would just try to advance like step by step. And some of those days I wouldn't make it to my checkpoint. Some days I would quit and finish early if I didn't feel like it, or if my body was aching, or if I felt tired, heavy. In those moments I felt like I couldn't continue. I did my maximum and that was absolutely fine. Again, my main goal at the start was just showing up and just taking it week by week. Also, I want to point out, you shouldn't be embarrassed to run slow. It feels weird doing a slow run because it's like, I feel like people are looking at me and thinking, this girl doesn't know how to run. It's like, no, I have to run slow. So sometimes I feel like a little bit embarrassed to run slow. I know it's easy to be embarrassed. I've been there when I've been running and people are overtaking me. And I would have this internal monologue of, I'm not a runner, but I feel like I'm a fraud. I don't know why. I just had this internal monologue of other people's perception of me, which is ridiculous. But anyway, I got past that. Now I'm no longer ashamed of running slow, you know? I found that once I actually slowed down, both with my pace and taking it way slower to advance, that I was almost advancing faster. I wasn't getting injured. I was resting my body properly. So I wasn't having long breaks in between runs. Like I was sticking to a very consistent plan, and I found myself advancing way faster than I have in the past because I was taking it easy. So yeah, to slow it down actually helps you to advance faster.
Crazy how much your endurance builds up, or like how much you improve. I feel with running it's very much a slow progress because it's not going to happen overnight.
Another thing that I learned during my training process was easy runs should be easy. I remember my first easy run, I came home and I was so excited because I'd done it in like a record time. And my boyfriend was like, that's not an easy run. So I then learned that an easy run, you should be training in like a zone 2 heart rate. There should be hardly any strain. It should almost feel like you could do it forever. And I say in quotation marks because obviously you couldn't really do it forever, but it feels like you could do it forever. Like you're not straining, like it feels easy. So an easy run for me, I absolutely love them. I used to find them really boring, but now I love them. They're like one of my favorite runs, especially like a little short, easy run. Love it. Absolutely love it. We love them very much. So if you plan to go out on an easy run and you come back feeling destroyed, tomato face, out of breath, all that jazz, you need to go slower. Sometimes it literally feels like you're walking with a slight bounce, and that's absolutely fine. You will get faster with time. It will get easier to go faster, and to sustain that pace, it just takes time. But the fact that you have even started running is an achievement in itself. Before I understood the concept of taking it easy or slow, like I really struggled with tempo, and I didn't understand how I should kind of pace myself in order to do a certain distance. I didn't know what would strain me more than others. Like I was just very lost with the rules. Like for way too long I was running way too fast. I was running at a very unsustainable speed, which left me coming back looking like a tomato. I had really bad shin splints. I was like struggling for breath. Like I would literally come back looking destroyed, looking like I'd been dragged through some hedges backwards. If you are struggling to run slow, the biggest advice that I could probably give, I mean, there's 2 points. Number one, I would say listen to podcasts over music. I found that when I listened to music, I would be too hyped up and I would lose my tempo because I would be running maybe to the beat of the music and I wouldn't realize. But when I would listen to a podcast, especially one that didn't require too much mental energy, I found that it was a really good way for me to stay focused and stick to a very comfortable pace, because it was almost like I was in a conversation even though I wasn't speaking. It's like you're kind of running at that pace, just conversational, which is obviously the aim of an easy run, is to run at a conversational pace. So I recommend kind of saving the energetic music maybe for any interval sessions that you have, or maybe race day, which is what I did on my half marathon. I saved all my music for the last few kilometers to hype me up.
I've now got my music on and I'm super hyped.
And the first part of the run I actually listened to a podcast. My favourite podcast I would listen to was Mind Pump. I found them very interesting to listen to. They kind of talk a lot about fitness related things, but then also life, and I really liked their personalities, and it just felt very easy for me to listen to when I ran. So when it came to doing too much too soon, I really found that starting off my runs without a plan was really beneficial, and just making sure I started that habit was like the first step that I needed to do. So once I secured the habit of having an actual consistent running routine, the next step that I did was to get a plan. So I had no clue about running, like really no clue. Like I said, I wasn't understanding my tempo. I didn't understand different types of like running terminology. I didn't know anything. I was a complete noob, complete beginner. I would look online and get completely overwhelmed and inundated with all this different types of information. I wouldn't know what was right, wrong. I didn't know what advice to follow. I was completely lost. So I ended up finding out about an app called Runna, who I am actually now partnered with, which is really exciting because I started off as a customer with them in August when I started training for my half marathon, and now I have a code, which is really exciting. So I will link that below. If you do want to try and get 2 weeks free, you can use my code below. So I started using them back in August because they made everything so much easier. I just put in the time of like a 5 kilometer that I ran once before, and how many times a week you want to run, and it'll spit you out a plan. It's kind of like having like a little running trainer in your pocket, which is really nice. Just having everything kind of like laid out for me for like 12 weeks was exactly what I needed. I also want to mention that having a plan also keeps you accountable. Knowing that I had these runs that I had to do, which was going to help me get to where I needed to be, it made me more likely to actually go out and do the run. Because if you don't really know what you're doing, it's way easier to just say, I'm not going to bother. Where if you actually have a plan in mind, you're more likely to go out and do it. I really recommend following a plan, like really, really, really recommend it. So yes. And I think another thing that helped me with running and staying accountable and showing up for myself is having goals. So the first goal of obviously becoming a runner, which just meant showing up and running. Like, I think the misconception of kind of becoming a runner doesn't mean that you have to be running races or anything. If you are doing 1 run a week, 1 run a month, if you're running on a consistent basis, hello, you are a runner. So that was my number 1 first goal, and it was very clear. It was just showing up, getting out the front door and running. And once I had achieved that goal, my next goal was then signing up to a race. So I signed up to a half marathon. Maybe I could have gone for a 10k or a 5k first, but I went for it. I cannot tell you how much my mindset with running changed once I signed up for the half marathon. I don't know what it was. It was just like, I was so on it with my training. I didn't skip that many runs. There was a few occasions when I was quite sick and extremely dead and tired and I didn't run. But for the most part, I completed every single run. I was so consistent. I was so motivated on the days that I had my long runs, the days that I had to run before work. I think because I had that clear goal in sight and I knew that it was coming. I was going to be running this half marathon whether I trained or not. Like, it had to be done in my eyes. It was happening. And I'd already laid the foundations of running with my first goal, which was becoming a runner. And now it was completing a race as now this runner version of myself. And I found that having the plan and having the goal was this like the magical combo that helped me do 3 runs a week for 12 weeks. Now, it's not to say that you have to go and sign up for a half marathon to start running. Like I said, you can start so small as if just to say to become a runner, or maybe you could say that your goal is to run for 30 minutes non-stop or to run twice a week for a month. It could be anything. It's important, I think, to figure out what goals you want. Once you have that goal in mind, it's a lot easier to stick to it, because with anything in life, if you're aimlessly doing something without a why or a goal, it's so much easier to not bother with it anymore. So I think when you actually have a plan, you're more likely to stick to it. And I get it, like some days you're not gonna want to run. There was days when I was like, I don't want to do this. And did I skip some runs in my half marathon training? Yes, I did. There was days when I was quite sick and there was days when I was extremely tired. There's always gonna be those days. That's why I find it so important, and I know I'm saying it again, but to lay the foundations of just showing up is like the first step and the most detrimental, because I feel like once you have that installed in yourself, being able to go out and run, it's so much easier to continue with that. And it's so normal. Like, not every run is going to be amazing. There's going to be some runs that you go out and you've got like this extra spring in your step and you feel amazing and you feel like you could run forever and it just, all the stars are aligning. But then there's other days you've woken up on the wrong side of the bed, you feel exhausted even though you've had loads of sleep, or you've not eaten properly, you're feeling sick, you're stressed, whatever, and just the stars are not aligned, and running is the last thing that you want to do.
I just ran 8 kilometers and I did not want to run. I was contemplating quitting like 2 kilometers in, and I was like, oh, I just feel like so tired.
And I think what kept me running this time and getting through those bad days when I didn't want to run was having this goal, this why. I want to become a runner. Why do I want to become a runner? Because it's something I've always been bad at. And I had this vision of me doing a half marathon. I actually put it on my vision board for this year. And I just had it. I was like, I have to. Like, that's something I want to do before I die. Like, I want to be able to say that I've ran a race. I want to run a half marathon. So I think having that why and my goal installed kind of was there in the back of my head saying, you got to do this. You got to do it for you, which really helped. And I think if I didn't have that, it would have been so much easier to quit. Like, if I was just running because I felt it was something I had to do, it was something that everyone else was doing, so I felt like I had to do it to fit in, then I probably wouldn't have stuck with it, which I think is an important lesson for like all fitness goals and everything that you do in life. I also found the times that I wasn't motivated to go, I would try and make running easier. And by that I mean in the evenings before my run, I would like lay out my clothes, shoes, my AirPods would be fully charged, my shoes would be ready, my socks would be ready. Because I feel like if you have too much tension between the goal that you want to do and actually doing it, then the chances are you're not going to do it. So making it easier, I think especially in the times when you feel like you don't want to run. If it's essentially super easy to go on this run, whether you complete the run or not, at least you've gotten out the front door. Next up, shoes. You may ask, Anna, what about shoes? Well, I'll tell you. Shoes for me, I think, is one of the most important things when it comes to running equipment, because you can kind of run in any type of clothing if you really want to, and you don't really need a Solomon jacket. Shoes literally are a game changer. For so long, I was wearing the wrong types of shoes. I couldn't find the right type of shoes. Then I found these, which are unfortunately discontinued. I'm so sad about it. These are the 1080 V12s from New Balance. I love them so much. Unfortunately, they've discontinued them and they brought out now the 1080 13s, V13, which I tried on when I was in London, and I was just like, these are just not my vibe. They were too small and too narrow because I've got quite wide feet, and the thing I like about these shoes is they're quite wide here in the toe box. It's quite thin material, so it doesn't feel like it's squishing. So I see so many videos online about people complaining about their toenails falling off. I ain't no podiatrist, but I know that that is not a good sign, and that is a sign of basically your shoes being too small. So it's really important to find a pair of shoes that fit properly and also suit your running style. Because I know a lot of people will, I think it's overpronate or underpronate. So basically the way that your foot rolls when you run, like everyone's is different. Whether you could be neutral, your foot might roll in when you run, roll out, and basically you might need a stability shoe, a non-stability shoe. There's like different types of heel drops, which I still don't really understand. But there's so many different types of running shoes. I really recommend that you go to a running shoe store, because they can normally actually do like a little bit of a running test where they watch the way that you run and then they can recommend shoes to you based on that. I always recommended the New Balance 1080s. I do think they are one of the best shoes in the game for running. Make sure they're not too tight. Remember, your feet do swell when you run, so it's always better to go like a little bit bigger in size with running shoes. But everything else in terms of running equipment, I mean, I just literally use a Decathlon running vest. I bought some funky socks. You can literally buy cheap running socks if you want, but to begin with, it's not like essential that you get them. I think the first thing that's important is getting a good pair of shoes so you're not putting strain on certain areas of your body. And they are expensive, I know that, but maybe get them in the sale. That's what I did with mine. Shoes, very important. The rest of the equipment can wait till later. I've been so bad in the past for making sure that I actually have time to warm up and cool down. I always felt like it was such a waste of time. I was like, oh, do I really have to do this? And I think that's why I got so injured, or my shins would start hurting when I used to run, because I was going straight into this repetitive and very harsh movement without actually pre-warning my body. Literally like, okay, from the sofa, let's go for a run. And I wasn't warming up my body properly. So yeah, make sure that you're doing dynamic stretches to warm up and doing a cool down. And I know it's a little bit annoying sometimes because we feel like we don't have enough time, and it's like, oh, but this takes time. Maybe I can just like skip it and get the workout done and then it's done. The cooling down and the warming up is just as important as the actual workout itself. Another reason why you should cool down, which is something I learned recently, is to never stop working out super abruptly, because it's actually really bad for you. I think it's got something to do with like the blood pumping, and the body gets very confused because it's like, we've just been doing so much exercise, why are we now stopping? I'm so confused. So when I was using the Runna app, it always schedules in a cool down. So normally I would start off all my runs with a warm up pace, which would be like conversational, and then to end the run it'll always have like a cool down, especially if it's been a long run. So I'll normally do maybe like a kilometer of cool down and a kilometer of warm up. When it comes to strength training, it is important. It is something that I actually didn't really do, and the reason why I didn't do much strength training while I was training for my half marathon was because I'd had quite a long break from being consistent at the gym. So knowing my body, I knew that it would have been too overloaded and I would have got injured, because I've been injured in the past and it wasn't fun. So I actually got a tear in my quadricep muscle, which was a pain in the ass, and it took so many months to heal, and I just really didn't want to go through that again. So my main priority was, okay, well, I'm going to be doing 3 runs a week. I've never done 3 runs a week in my whole entire life. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to start then working out twice a week consistently. So my main focus was just running. But now that I've kind of got that base of running and, you know, I'm running consistently, the next thing that I want to do is then start adding now my strength training, because the last thing you want to do is overload your body little by little. But you can also do a lot of home workouts. A lot of body weight exercises would really help you with running. It doesn't mean that you have to go to the gym. So yeah, I just think make sure that you're very strategic with your training and don't overload your body, because the last thing you want to do is get an injury. We do not want any injuries here. no injuries here. Being able to run slow also allows you to work on your form. So that was something that I really worked on when I was training for my half marathon, because I feel like my running style / form beforehand was not the best, but it's what felt natural at the time. But I watched a lot of videos. I heard somewhere that leading with your hips is a really good way, and that's something that really helped me, thinking, okay, I'm leading with my hips. You kind of have to be upright, but then also landing on like the middle of your foot, not on the heel, like you're not heel striking. Also kind of like trying to kind of have like a strong core, because my problem is that if I relax too much when I'm running, I would get like lower back pain, and I think that was because I was like curving. So if I relaxed and I wasn't engaging my core, it was like my lower back was taking a lot of like the impact. So I found that when I would kind of like, it sounds like so much information, but trust me, if you slow down and you take it easy, like it will start to come together. And I think when you practice and you watch videos and you can actually implement them like run by run and practice them and try them, it starts to make sense and your body does start to adapt to this new running style. But I found that if my hips were leading the way while having a slightly embraced core, like someone's gonna punch me and it's like, you know, like I'm ready for you. So it's kind of like that with like my shoulders back, but not like ridiculous, but like kind of like straight up back, like you're kind of carrying books on your head. So you're confident with your run, you're ready for an attack, and your hips are taking you forward. So that's kind of what helped me. And also with midfoot. Ain't no heel striker here. So that was something I really improved on, and I definitely think that the removing of the heel strike really helped my shin splints, and the lower back pain really got better when I started kind of embracing my core and focusing on the form. But if you go slow, it gives you time and a chance to actually fix that. Another benefit of going slow is it also gives your body, muscles and fibers enough time to kind of get used to the stress that it's being put under. Also, listen to your body. If your body is telling you, please, I don't want to run, more sleep, you haven't fed me enough, and you just feel like you're not well, maybe you're run down, maybe you're tired, and you know it in yourself. Like when you feel like you're not up for a run, like you know it. It's not the case of being lazy and thinking, oh, I can't be bothered. It's more like, no, I physically cannot do this run. I know that I'm going to injure myself. I'm too tired for this. I'm not eating enough food. Then the best thing you can do is not run and sleep more and eat better and drink lots, and then come back to the run the next day or the day after. There was a few times when I literally didn't want to run, especially during the end of my training. I think it's because it was just such a long training program, like 12 weeks. For someone that's never ran before, it's almost inevitable at some point that you're going to get quite tired. I remember the final weeks of my training program, there was a couple of runs where I was so tired and I would wake up in the morning and it would be a different feeling to, I can't be bothered to do this. It was like, I don't feel like I can do this. Like, oh my God, I feel so tired. I feel so drained. And the run would be so heavy. And the times that I did try to run, like I remember I tried to do a 12 kilometer and I tried to do it like multiple times because each time was just horrible, and I would get like 2 kilometers in and just feel awful. Like you just know. And in that moment I was like, no, I'm going to listen to my body. I don't want to get injured because I'm so close to race day. I'm just going to take myself home and eat and relax and do what I need to do because that's what my body's telling me to do. I was meant to go and do my long run from last week this morning, but I've decided to stop. I'm just listening to my body because right now I have a massive stitch on my right side. I don't feel well rested. I also wanted to talk about a little bit of a sensitive subject of pooing. Ooey. Which I just wanted to mention that I feel like this is like something that's brought up all the time online. Well, you know your body better than anyone else. You know what goes on in there. But I definitely recommend trying to go to the bathroom before going for a run. And I also recommend taking tissues with you on a run. Whether that is to pee. It's always handy to have tissues in case of emergency. There's nothing worse than being on a run and then like halfway through you have the urge. There is nothing worse. So yeah. Also I found it was really difficult to figure out what to eat before my runs. I wouldn't say I'm a pro on this yet, but a few things that I ate before running would be like dates with peanut butter on, which I've read mixed reviews about. Some people say that like, no, that would give me the shits. And then other people are like, that's a great snack. I found it to be a great snack. It didn't give me too many problems, but I think that's just because my body's used to taking in a lot of fiber in the morning. So if your body's not used to that, maybe it would change things around. Again, it depends on you and your diet and what your body's used to. Bagel with peanut butter, or I would have like a small bowl of oats. Oats are very much a loved breakfast meal. But if I would have a bowl of oats, it would be extremely small, a very small bowl of oats. You just have to experiment. Again, the pros of going slow and taking it easy and just taking it day by day means that you can actually experiment and see what works for you, and once you find what works, you can stick with it. You can have like a few different meals that you know will work with your body before a run. There's plenty of stuff out there online. I think my favorite fall vegetable is, my favorite pre-run meal, I think, has to be oats or a bagel. I just want to say, if you do run, whether it's at any speed, any style, any distance, any program, any purpose, you are a runner. It was something that I didn't feel like I was for such a long time. I would come up with excuses like, I'm not a runner because XYZ, la la la. No, like if you're going out and you're running, you are a runner. You are a runner. You are a runner, Harry. I'll see you guys soon. Ciao.